The global population continues to face many challenging situations daily. Climate change, financial losses, fear, anxiety, sickness, death. It may sometimes seem like this season of gloom will never end, and many are losing hope. The future may be daunting, but in the midst of your hopelessness, I can assure you that God, who is the creator of this world, still has the world in the palm of his hands, and for this reason, you can still have hope.
I want to welcome you again to the Wednesday night Bible class for the Stonecrest Church of Christ. It is a plum picking pleasure that is presented to us each Wednesday evening to be able to come into your places of abode, whether in the office, in your car, in your home, as you are jogging through the park, wherever you are. And wherever state you are located, we are greatly encouraged by those who view and study with us, not just here in the greater Atlanta area, but throughout the United States. Thank you so very, very much. Before we finalize our message from last week, the tragedy of misplaced trust, I would call your attention again to the fact that our church is about to celebrate its 8th anniversary coming up in October 10 through October the 12th. Those 3 days are going to be power-packed with fun, family, food, and fellowship. Beginning that Friday night, there are activities planned for our families and our friends. So we encourage you to please come out and join us both Friday, that Saturday. Of course, there's going to be great singing, great food. There'll be horse riding. There'll be different booths and activities for the kids and for young people. And then, of course, that Saturday afternoon, a number of singing groups and songsters from throughout several states are going to be here to encourage our people. So please make plans to join us for the celebration of our 8th annual church anniversary. And then, of course, culminating that Sunday morning, we have invited Alvin Daniels to come and be our featured speaker for the weekend. We've also invited Danny Land from the Central Church in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to come and to be our special song leader for the weekend. So please come and join us. You'll be so glad you did. And we'll be blessed by your presence as well as your participation. You've been waiting for the last week for me to answer a hanging question that I left you with on last Wednesday night. Before we answer that question, we need to set it up again for you by reading the 5th plague at Exodus 9 and verse number 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go into Pharaoh and say to him, Thus saith the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go, that they may serve me." Now let me stop there again for station identification. The Lord has instructed Moses again to go into Pharaoh. On next Wednesday night, I'm going to show you something that I stumbled across in my study a couple of weeks ago about how these plagues are structured in plagues of threes. The first 3 plagues belong in a certain category. The second 3 plagues belong in a certain category. The third 3 plagues belong in a certain category. And then, of course, the last plague, plague number 10, sits out there, if you will, all by itself. And what is going to be interesting is that on 3 of these plagues, when God tells Moses to go and speak to Pharaoh in the morning, and that's plague 1 and plague 4 and plague number 7. He's at the water. Plagues 2 and 5 and 7, I believe, and I'm going off the top of my head. I'll outline it and detail it for you next week. He's, if you will, in his office. Well, why is he at the water? Well, because he has a water ritual every morning. Every morning, the Pharaoh would go down to the Nile River. Remember, the Nile River is a god or goddess. At least they believed that it was. So in an act of worship, he'd go there. And so in 3 of these plagues, God was going to tell Moses, hey, meet him at church. Go down where he is worshiping his God. But then, in the plague like the one we're looking at here tonight, when he says, go into Pharaoh, then Pharaoh is perhaps in his palace somewhere. All right. He's at the office. So God says to him, go to where he's worshiping and go to where he's working and give him directives and instructions from me. And in this plague, which is plague number 5, he's at work. Moses goes in and he says to him, Pharaoh, the God of the Hebrews. Now he's the God of the whole earth. But he's talking to Pharaoh, who believes that he is the God of not only the Egyptians, but also the Israelites. And God says, now just go in there and straighten the record for me. Thus saith the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go. God is more than just redeeming his people. He's saving his people. He's redeeming his people. Listen to this statement, for a reason and for a purpose. And that reason and that purpose is that they may serve. And that English word serve there translates a Hebrew word that talks about the worship of God. In other words, God redeemed them so that they would worship him. Same is true with you and I today. He has saved us so that we might worship him. Now, be mindful that the Israelites have been in Egyptian slavery and captivity and bondage now for some 430 years. They have not worshiped God in that length of time. So God says, I need to get my people out of here because I need them to be in worship of me. So it is redemption then with a purpose. And that purpose is to serve God by worshiping God. Now, I want you to watch verse number 2. He says, for if you refuse to let them go and still hold them down, behold, the hand of the Lord will fall with a severe plague upon your livestock that are in the field. And then he names them: the horses, the donkeys, the camels, the herds, and the flocks. Come in, lean in. Tell Pharaoh, let my people go. If he refuses to let them go, if he refuses to release, watch this, my people from his hand, I'm going to release my hand, and it will severely plague your livestock that are in the field. Now, I done said that twice. I hope that answers your question that I left hanging on last week. But hold on. Please see that God says, I have touched my fingers, my hand has touched the Nile River, turn it into blood. I've allowed frogs to come. I've touched the dirt, the dust, and flies, or rather gnats, have infiltrated you. But at plague number 4, he makes a distinction. He says, for the first time, I'm only going to allow the plagues to affect the Egyptians. Now, the first 3 plagues affected Egyptians, and it affected Israelites as well. But starting with plague 4, God set a line of demarcation in the sky, told the fly, do not fly beyond the no-fly zone. So God made a distinction, a Mason-Dixon line, a line of demarcation, a demilitarized zone. God put, I showed you a can of off in the sky, put GPS inside of the flies, and told them, don't cross the line. Now watch this. From the river to the flaws to the nets to the flies. But in this plague, he's going to strike. You need to hear this one. He's gone from being a nuisance. See, the gnats were a nuisance. Flies were a nuisance. The frogs were a nuisance. The water turning into blood, that's a nuisance. But now I'm about to affect your economy. You better listen to me. Now I'm about to, watch this, step up the intensity. In other words, God said, boy, I ain't playing with you no more. I'm dead serious. You need to let my people go. I'm going to turn up the heat on you. He says, I'm going to send a severe plague upon your livestock. Let me say it for a third time, see if you picked it up. But I'm only going to severely plague the livestock that are in the field. He said, the horses, the donkeys, the camels, the herds, your flocks. And then at verse 5, and the Lord set a time, saying, tomorrow the Lord will do this thing in the land. And the next day the Lord did this thing. All the livestock of the Egyptians died, but not one. Here's the distinction again. Here's the line of demarcation again. Not one of the livestock of the people of Israel died. It's tantamount to saying that when the coronavirus hit, when COVID-19 was prevalent in the world, it only affected non-believers and non-Christians. Now, we know that's not the case. I'm just trying to help you to see something here. Wouldn't it have been something had God allowed that virus to come, but not to affect those of us who are believers? Well, that's what's happening here. God says all the livestock of the Egyptians died, but not one of the livestock of the people of Israel died. Now, I posed to you a scenario last Wednesday night. Ask you to think about it. Ask you to research it. Ask you to go back and look through your hermeneutic notes. And so I posed the question, how could all of the livestock die, including horses? Now come on. You watched the movie. Some of you watched the movie, but you didn't read the Bible. And you watched the uh, the movie with Charleston Heston playing the role of Moses, a Hollywood version. And you saw in the movie that Pharaoh, after releasing the people, would come back with horse-driven chariots. Well, wait a minute. How could that be? When the text said that all the livestock, and in verse 3, he named them. He named horses. He named the cattle. He named the donkeys. He named the camels. He named the flocks. How could all of these die? And yet, Pharaoh is going to chase the children of God with horse-driven chariots. Do we have a contradiction here? No, but we got to do some Bible study. We got to do some hermeneutics. As you see on the screen, the term all, the global term all, this is going to sound so inconsistent and so contradictory on my part, but for those who've been listening to me preach now for the last 18 years, know that I've set you up in order to instruct you. All doesn't mean all. Boom. Come on, Doc. Come on now. You've been telling us pay attention to the Bible, and we've been trying to follow you and set in the Bible as Christians ought to. Now you telling us all doesn't mean all? Yeah, all doesn't mean all. See, this term all, it sounds like a global term, but a word only means what it means in the context that it finds itself. Oh, teach the Bible, Dr. Barclay. Watch this. This term all ain't talking about algebra. This term all is not talking about mathematics here, folks. You have to understand the term all in the context that it is used. Well, if you look at the screen that I have on the board, on the lead dog have on your screen now, you need to understand something about the biblical context. Scriptures often use words like all, watch this, in a non-literal, non-algebraic, non-mathematical kind of way. Well, let's back up a book. In the book of Genesis, chapter 41, verse number 57, records for us the story of Joseph. Joseph is going to save Egypt and the world from starvation because of a dream that he interpreted for the Pharaoh. Well, long story short, the text says at Genesis 41, verse 57, because Egypt, because of the strategic thinking of Joseph, had in years of plenty not ate everything that they harvested. In those years of plenty, those 7 years of plenty, when crops were just growing everywhere, he stored a lot of grain that they did not consume. So in those 7 years of poverty, he had enough stored up, strategically placed, where that in those lean years, they could still survive. Now, that's good money management. I mean, it's just good management. I try to tell young folk all the time, don't spend everything you make. Mama and them used to tell us, listen, you better save some from, oh, I heard you. You had a mama like that too. You had a daddy like that too. Save some for a rainy day. You're young and strong right now. You in your mind, you got all the rest of your life ahead of you. Well, the truth of the matter is that go out to any cemetery and you'll see short graves and long graves. You'll see short lives. You'll see long lives. There's no guarantee that you're going to live to be old or older. So be prudent. I didn't say be stingy. I said be prudent. Be wise. Save a little now. Don't spend everything that you make right now. But here's the preaching point. The scripture says in Genesis 41:57 that all the world was coming to Joseph. All the world? Everybody? Well, you have to understand that term, how the writer is using that term. He's using it in an idiomatic kind of way, in a distributive kind of way, or a figure of speech called hyperbole. Well, what's hyperbole? Well, it's just a term that you exaggerate in order to make your point. If I say to you tonight, I'm so hungry, I can eat a horse. You know how big a horse is? Watch this. A horse is is larger than me. Folks, I can't eat, and you can't either. I can't eat my body weight. My computer is about to go off here. The battery, I forgot to plug the battery in, the cord in. So I'm gonna step away just for a quick second. So I don't have to do this whole sermon over again. Now, I want you to see. All right, so I won't go off the air, but the whole world coming to Joseph. Well, it's hyperbole, and hyperbole is nothing more than truth that is exaggerated in order to make a point. And if I say to you that I'm so hungry I can eat a horse, well, that animal's 4 or 5 times my own body weight. But we get the point. All right. But in order to get the point, you exaggerate your speech in order to make the point. So when the text says that the whole world is coming to Joseph, it does not literally mean every person in the world, even in that world at that point in history. It didn't mean that. So I want you to watch this. Okay. So if it didn't mean that, what did it mean? Well, if you will look at my screen now, in Exodus 9, all the livestock means all the livestock in the field. That's what the text says. It said all of the livestock in the field. All of the livestock that were in the pastures, that was in the field, watch this, that was exposed when the plague came. Now, there was some horses not in the field. There were some cattle that belonged to the Egyptians, all right, watch it, not in the field. All right. Some of them may have been stable. Some of them may have been guarded in bonds or in secure places. You know, unlike the flies and the gnats, this plague only came on the livestock that was out in the field. Some, as you see in the next slide, some were sheltered. And so those that were sheltered were not affected by the plague. Now, there are some scholars who believe that this plague was what was called a particular disease called anthrax. And for those of you who have grown up on farms or on ranches, that's a dreaded disease. Because if one cow gets it, you got to kill the herd. All of them? Is that malicious of a disease? And besides, if you just keep reading the story in Exodus chapter 9, in the next plague, when the hail comes, the hail will strike down those animals that remained in the field. And what do you mean by that? Well, when the plague came, if they were out in the field, livestock died. But if they were inside the barn or in a protected place, when the hail came, if somehow they came from that protected place, watch this, those died too. All right. Now, I want you to watch this. The term for all is the Hebrew term called kol, keol, and it often means the whole of the relevant set. In other words, if you got a set of animals out there in the field and they are exposed, these are the animals, or these are the livestock that were affected by the plague. Now, I want you to watch this. Between plague 5 and the crossing of the sea, Egypt could have very well kept some horses in sheltered areas and simply later reassigned them to chariots. And that could have happened. And then you also have to think like this, that these plagues happen over the time frame of not a couple of weeks, like you see in the movie, The Ten Commandments, but really they would have occurred over the process of an entire calendar year. Now, within that length of time, when the sea would have cleared up, when some of the stench and some of the debris had been removed from the land, it is certainly logical and likely that trade had reassumed by way of the Nile River, and they certainly could have replenished their stock over the period of that 1 year. But here's the takeaway from the plague. Pharaoh's horse and rider, confidence dies at the waterline. When you watch the movie, The Ten Commandments, you see Pharaoh standing on the bank and his horseman and his chariot runs into the river, the Red Sea. Nah, that's not the biblical account. That's Hollywood's account. The biblical account at the end of Exodus 14, 13 through 14:28, Pharaoh and his army was drowned in the Red Sea. All right. Now, watch this. God isn't tripped up by Egypt's logistics. What he's doing is exposing Egypt's trust. Oh, I want you to hear me read this line. What we stable, what we stockpile, what we strap to the chariots can't save us when the Lord fights for us. Ooh, Dr. B, let me push pause, hit rewind, and play again. You can have stuff in the stable. Ha! Okay, okay. You can't relate to that. You can have stuff, possessions in your stocks, in your bonds, in your 401ks, in your savings, in all of these money markets accounts. Watch this. You can have your treasure there, but you can't hide it from God. All it takes is cancer to develop in your body. All it takes is some disease to set up in your body. And all that stuff you got in the bank, in the market, wherever it is, you'll have to pull it out in order to pay doctors, technicians, and hospitals. And friends, watch this. It can happen in a moment. It can happen quicker than right now. See, this plague is about the tragedy of misplaced trust. The fifth plague strikes at the heart of Egypt's wealth and worship. Okay, you need to say it again. This plague, watch this, the previous plagues were nuisances, but this one begins to strike at the national economic system, because Egypt's wealth was inside of his livestock. See, you can be money poor. What do you mean by money poor? In other, you don't have a lot of money. I know folk who don't have much money, but they got good credit. In other words, I don't have money, but because of good credit, I can get money. Well, this is why our foreparents told us, don't sell the land. Well, why would they encourage us not to sell the land? Because there's money in your land. What's it? Not just money in your land, there's wealth in your land. I don't have time to this. to nuance the difference between money and wealth. Just because you got money, well, I said I wasn't going to do that, didn't I? But I want you to watch this. A lot of people are wealthy, not because they got a lot of money, but because they got a lot of land. Because watch this, land can make you money. Ooh, what did you just say? I said, land can make you money. Well, how can land make you money? Well, there are trees on the land. That's money. There's dirt on the land. Sell dirt. That's money. You can loan your land out to other farmers to grow crops. The government would even pay you to grow crops on your land. So here, uh, uh, their wealth was tied up in livestock. So what does God do? God hits at the heart of their wealth. And watch this, friend. The livestock were used and considered worship. Huh? I'm going to show you two of their major gods was a bull and a cow. Oh, teach the Bible. Dr. B, I want you to watch this. Remember last week I showed you 9/11? How did those terrorists hit two of three centers in the United States? They hit the World Trade Center. Well, see, that's the heart of our economic system. Why do you think they call it the World Trade Center of the Twin Towers? It's where the world did business. So those planes and those terrorists hit at the heart and the center of our economic system. And then a plane hit the Pentagon. Why Pentagon? It's the heart of our military might. And the third plane, we believe, was headed to Washington, D.C., to either the Capitol or the White House. That's the heart of our politics. Those men were strategic. Watch this. God was strategic because Egypt's wealth, if you're looking at the screen, Egypt's wealth, economy, and food supply depended on livestock. Oxen for plowing, donkeys for transportation, sheep and goats for clothing and food, cattle for sacrifice, and horses for the military. This plague struck at the very foundation of their economy and their hearts. What's the message? Here it is. What we depend on most in this world, whether money, possessions, success, can be taken away in the twinkling of an eye. And God's message is, while these things can be taken away, only God remains faithful. Ooh, I wish I had hours up in here tonight. Egypt embraced what America embraced a few years ago, 2008. Remember the too big to fail policy? President Obama had just come into office. He had inherited a terrible economy from former President George Bush. And the banking system was on the verge of collapse. And Mr. Obama and his administration and most economists thought that we couldn't lose those banks because if those banks fail, it will have a ripple effect in the economy. So the government had to step in and save Lehman Brothers. Lehman Brothers was a 158-year-old powerhouse in the banking business. And Mr. Obama and the economists said it was too big to fail. But watch this. In one weekend, it failed. And so we had to step in, or the government had to step in and save the rest of the banks. Because this arrogant bank thought it was too big to fail, and it failed in just one weekend. Well, in Pharaoh's case, he believed his riches, his livestock, and deities could never be shaken. Yet in a single plague, all of it was wiped out. Point of the plague, simple. Anything we depend on apart from God, whether it's money, possession, status, health, can be swept away, but only God remains faithful. Oh, I love the quote from the late Corrie ten Boom, who lost her family and freedom in a Nazi concentration camp, declared, and I quote, "You may never know that Jesus is all you need until Jesus is all you have." Ooh. You may never know that Jesus is all you need until Jesus is all that you have. So, what's the point of the plague? Well, I showed you the overriding point. Anything you depend on other than God is going to fail. But watch this. What is the point of the plague? Plague number 5. Number 1, to expose the fertility of Egypt's gods. Number 2, to strike Egypt's economy and security. Number 3, to demonstrate God's distinction, yet his protection. And then number 4, to confront Pharaoh's hardened heart. So again, this plague was a judgment on at least 2 of the Egyptians' gods in their pantheon. And watch this. They were both related to livestock. Apis the bull was the symbol of fertility and strength. Hathor, the cow goddess, is associated with motherhood and protection, but she couldn't protect her own calves. Apis the bull, fertility and strength, went down in the field. When God struck cattle in the 5th plague, it wasn't just an economic disaster. It was a theological strike. By killing livestock, God showed that Hathor, the cow goddess, symbol of motherly care and feminine love, was powerless to shield Egypt's herd. The beacon of maternal protection offered no refuge from the true God of Israel. And then Apis, the bull god, symbol of fertility and strength, could not protect Egypt's herd. The living symbol of power was powerless before the true God of Israel. Now, in my closing moments here tonight, I want you to see this. Because in Exodus, remember, this is Exodus 9. They're going to leave Egypt in Exodus 12 and 13. They're going to get to the Red Sea in Exodus 14. They're going to cross the Red Sea in Exodus 15. You know what's really interesting? Even after they left Egypt, Egypt didn't leave them. Egypt didn't leave them. What do you mean by that? Well, isn't it interesting what happens when Egypt sneaks into the camp? Okay, you didn't feel that. You didn't feel that. That's okay. I'll explain. By the time we get to Exodus 32, okay, they leave in Exodus 13. They get and cross the river in Exodus 15. In Exodus 18 and 19, they get to a mountain called Mount Sinai. At Mount Sinai, they're going to be there for 2 whole years. While they are there in Exodus 19, God is going to call Moses up to the mountain and give him the Decalogue of the 10 commandments. In Exodus 25, God tells Moses, I want you to build me a tabernacle, Exodus 25:8, that I may dwell with my people in the wilderness. And then Moses has to go back up the mountain to meet with God. And he's been gone too long, and the people are too impatient. They start asking, where is he? Why isn't he here? Is he dead? Why didn't he send us an email? Why didn't he send us a text? And then they go to Aaron and say to him, man, we need a God we can see. Y'all better hear me right through here tonight. We need a God. We don't know what has happened to Moses. We don't know if he's coming back or not. Let's do this. Let's make us our own gods. Watch this. We'll call them by Yahweh's name. We know God's a jealous God. He told us that when he gave us the law of Moses. I'm a jealous God. Thou shalt have no other God before me. He told us that. But Aaron, we need a God we can see. We'll let him keep Yahweh. We'll let him keep Jehovah. We'll let him keep the name. Just give us something that we can see. Now, I want you to watch this. If you look at the next graphic I have on the screen, and I'm running real fast here. Watch this. Israel, U-turn. Preach, boy. It's a relapse. They will now, watch this. They will now cast a calf. Ooh, did you get it? They will make him a god. And of all of the animals they could have chosen, who did they choose? What did they choose? They chose livestock. It's what I call a theological U-turn. Come here, watch this. Hear me, please. The very thing God dethroned in Egypt gets enthroned in the camp. Ooh, preacher! God dethroned that cow. God dethroned that bull. God dethroned Hathor, the cow goddess. And in just a matter of weeks, what God tore down. Watch this. They rebranded. Watch this. Same stuff. We're just going to put a new name on it. When I was growing up, to this day, toothpaste that I use is called Colgate. I use Sensodyne every now and then, but mine is Colgate. Every 6 months, Colgate would come out. Watch this, with new and improved. We're gonna still call it Colgate, but it's new and improved. Come on now, soap, shampoo, everything is new and improved. But watch it. But you call it by the same name. See, they're gonna call it God, but they're going to say, these are the gods that brought us out of Egypt. Watch the screen. Why did they choose, of all things, a golden calf? They wanted something visible and tangible. Watch this, to lead them. Look what they said. Make us gods who will go before us. Were they stuck on stupid? This God wasn't going to carry them anywhere. She had to be carried. Now watch this. You're going to claim Apis the bull's strength and power and fertility, but you're going to keep a rope around his neck. Go, boy, you preaching up in here tonight. I need to ask y'all some questions tonight. What gods do you have on lockdown? What gods have you chained? What gods have you created, watch this, with your own hands that you put in the place of God? Oh, I don't have time to talk about the biblical concept of syncretism, where you mix and you blend different religions and different beliefs, different worship practices into a single system, so that the results is no longer the faith as revealed, but a hybrid faith. Wish I had time to talk about this nasty notion in our politics today called Christian nationalism, where politicians put their name on a Bible, and inside of that Bible put a copy of the Constitution, as if somehow the Constitution is on the same level with the Bible. Folks, there's some dangerous, nasty stuff going on in American politics, where we have become so trying to hold my tongue here unless I have to pay $50. Some of y'all don't get that, but that's all right. But this whole notion that certain races of people owns this country, and we're gonna put the flag and the nation and the Constitution, and the Bible has to take a back seat to our political views. I'm here to tell you, God ain't Democrat. Jesus ain't a Democrat. He's not a Republican, and he's not an independent. He does not come to take sides. He comes to take over. And then let me say one final thing about this God that they made. They made him out of gold. They made him what? They made him out of gold. You got these slaves now that God told them before they left Egypt to go and spoil the Egyptians and ask for gold and for bronze and for silver. Now, this is what you have to be mindful of. That in Exodus 25, God tells Moses to ask the people for gold, for silver, for bronze, and a list of other stuff. The ask is in Exodus 25, but watch this. They don't start giving until after, watch this incident right here in Exodus 32. In other words, they're going to take stuff that they should have put in the offering to make God a tabernacle. But instead, they're going to take some of that gold and make a cow out of it. It's misplaced, misdirected treasure. Oh, I need me about 3 or 4 hours right through here. Because about this time of the year, the Atlanta Falcons, Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay Packers, Baltimore Ravens, New Orleans Saints, Philadelphia Eagles, Charlotte, whatever the mascot is, I'm amazed at how some Christians will take God's resources and support your favorite sports team and won't give anything to advance the kingdom of God. These people took resources that God gave them and they spit in God's face and made another God with it. Ooh. All right. Let me just run to a closing word. The fifth plague was not just about cattle. It was about trust. The message still rings today. Everything else can be stripped away in a moment. But God remains faithful. I'll leave you with the words of Exodus 9 and 7. Pharaoh sent. Read it with me on the screen. Pharaoh sent, and behold, not one of the livestock of Israel was dead. But the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not let the people go. Oh, please. I know I'm rushing, but I need to take time to explain that. This is what happened. When all of those livestock and animals died out there in the field, Pharaoh sent the FBI, the CIA, the police department, the rangers. He sent them out. Watch this. For the first time in all of the plagues, he sent them out to investigate. And they came back with this report. Not one of the livestock of Israel was dead. Well, what's significant about that, Brother B? Here it is. What will it take? Oh, watch the graphic on the screen. What will it take? I mean, you've seen blood in your river, your life source. You've seen frogs. You've seen gnats. You've seen flies. And now you see all your livestock dead. And you have evidence for it. And you still harden your heart. You know what that tells me? Oh, y'all listen to me. You know what that tells me? That suffering doesn't automatically soften your heart. Sometimes it hardens. Oh, Brother B, what did you just say? That man saw all of that. He saw his nation in economic ruin, economic collapse. He saw his major body of water, the Nile River, stinking, dead. He saw frogs. He saw gnats. He saw God divide up the sky. And the text said, with all of that evidence, he hardened his heart. I mean, folk, you've come through cancer. You survived the car wreck when other passengers in your car didn't. The passengers in the next car didn't. But you walked away. You went to the hospital. You went through the surgery. You've had bankruptcy. What will it take? Oh, I want you to see these 6 things on the screen, and I'll bid you good night. Pain can pry open idols and still miss the heart. Pain exposes idols, but only grace can transform a heart. Loss can break fences, but not stubbornness. Pressure without repentance only harden your heart. You would think that some of the stuff that some of us have gone through and the Lord has brought us through, we'd be asking the elders for keys to the front door, to the side door, to the back door. We'd open up the door of some of the stuff that God has brought us through. You see, loss reveals loyalties. It only reveals them. It does not relocate them. Ooh, brother B. See, trouble and trial and tribulations don't guarantee trust, but grace does. So I'll leave you with the point of the plague again. Anything we depend on apart from God can be slipped away. Only God remains faithful. I ask you one more time. What will it take for you to come to God? Of all of the stuff that God has brought you through, it hadn't softened your heart. For too many, their hearts, like Pharaoh, have become even more hardened, with death everywhere. The text says, he hardened his heart. My prayer for you and for us is that we no longer harden our hearts, but we submit ourselves to the will of God. And until next Wednesday night, may the Lord of the harvest bless you, and may he bless you real good.